Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Star Wars. My name is Chris Higgins, and today I've got a real fun episode for you. I'm in the process of writing an essay that I'll be sharing on Substack, and today I'm going to narrate that for the podcast audience. I've been reading this, you guys have probably heard of it. It's called Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn, one of my favorite Star Wars books. And there's an early section of the book that I want to discuss with you guys. I think that there's a lot of great discussion that can be had on the early meeting between Grand Admiral Thrawn and Joruus C'baoth. So today we're going to talk about that and how it relates to you and hybrid work. Alright, so part one, a meeting between sovereigns. In Heir to the Empire, which is a Legends novel by Timothy Zahn, Grand Admiral Thrawn has a goal to return the Empire back to its former glory after the Death Star 2 was destroyed and Vader and Sidious with it. Now, early in the book, he seeks out a dark Jedi named Joruus C'baoth, who is the guardian of Mount Tantus on the planet of Wayland. And he's there guarding valuable treasure, stolen art, and other goodies that the Emperor put there for him to guard. So Thrawn goes to Wayland and is determined not to leave without getting both the cash and C'baoth. The problem is that he can't leave, or he can't get what he wants without C'baoth's willing participation. So I really like the dialogue in this interaction. I think it does a great job of showing each character's values, motivations, and what it's like to see two sovereign individuals interact with each other. And I want to talk a little bit about what that term means in general, how that's reflected in this book. So, as we talked about, this cache, that's contained in the mountain, has powerful technology that Thrawn wants to get. It's going to help him to defeat the rebellion. I don't want to go into that because I don't want to spoil too much, but for those that haven't read it. But just so you know, it's important to him. It's important in how he wants to attack the rebels. But what might be even more important is to get C'baoth on his side and to recruit him. So all it comes down to really is that Thrawn theorizes that after the Emperor's demise, the Imperial fleet was no longer aided by his battle meditation. And because of that, all of the fleet lost its fighting spirit and was easily routed by a very small band of fighters. Just to clarify, the book does not use the word battle meditation. But I think this book was written in the early 90s, and since then, we do use that term to describe what is happening there. So battle meditation is the ability of a Jedi to go into a state of meditation and boost the abilities, mental abilities of their allies, gives them, it essentially just boosts all of their mental abilities, their morale. It gives them a feeling of hopefulness and confidence. It just gives them good vibes, honestly. And it does the opposite to the enemies. But what he thinks that happened is that after Sidious died, the battle meditation went away. And so the fleet just falls apart because they've never had to work without the battle meditation. So essentially, he thinks that they had become too reliant on it. And after it went away, they just fell apart completely. They were panicked. They were confused. Like, they weren't cohesive, which is another benefit. It improves cohesion. So he thinks that he really thinks that C'baoth will be able to provide that ability, which is interesting because I don't know if it's an ability that all Jedi have, but I guess he just assumes that C'baoth has the ability, but he is a master. So it looks like he did have the ability. And so he wants to recruit him to get him for that. And I'm guessing in general, he thinks that's a missing ingredient that he's going to need. And especially because his enemies, the rebels, they have Jedi. So there's really no better way to combat Jedi than with a Jedi of your own. So it looks like he wants to have this space wizard on his side in the battles to come, particularly with the fleet and using it in critical situations, not all the time, because as we've talked about, they get reliant on it and they become a lot weaker when they become so used to having it. And I think their mental abilities being amplified and accelerated by battle meditation is amazing. I wish that I could use battle meditation, but I can't. But what I do have is Magic Mind. It's a great product that I drink about once a day, right around the time that I have my coffee. And I love it because it gives you a lot of similar benefits of coffee, but it also has a lot of other nutrients that give you calmness, ease of mind, lessens the stress level that you would have by just like slugging more cups of coffee. And I'm not like a health nerd, but I do like to have my supplements and vitamins on a daily basis. And Magic Mind is a very convenient way to do that because it comes in a little green colored shot that you would think doesn't taste good, but it actually does. And sometimes I like to put it in my smoothies because it actually improves the taste. And I know that I'm not just putting a bunch of sugar and bad stuff in there to make it taste better. So it's got a lot of great ingredients, like I mentioned, that are somewhat rare, or at least you would have to go all around. You'd have to travel all around the grocery store if they even have this stuff, like lion's mane, mushroom, chlorophyll, matcha, B vitamins, turmeric. Again, they all help with your cognition, sense of energy that I like as someone who needs to be productive at work, can't afford to be sluggish. And I like to have it, a lot of times I'll have them before a workout or a soccer game. And because it comes in such a small shot, I don't have to worry about drinking too much. I don't want to get a cramp, So it's got a lot of great benefits, help you throughout your day. And it's something that I look forward to, especially after you've started using it consistently. Now, the other thing is, to help build our mental wealth, this other product they have is actually their sleep. What are they calling it? I haven't gotten this one, but it's a sleep performance shot. So yeah, you got a mental performance, but I think if anything, we know that good sleep is going to help our energy throughout the day too. So Magic Mind has a shot for that as well. It helps you fall asleep faster. It helps you fall asleep more deeply, and apparently helps you wake up refreshed. And it's in a natural, non-addictive way. So I'm looking forward to trying it. I know my shipment is on the way, but I just want to tell you guys about that because we have this great offer. If you go to www.magicmind.com/SWLCJAN, that's www.magicmind.com/SWLCJAN. You can get 45% off your first subscription. So it's a bundle. It comes with both the sleep elixir and the normal mental shot for Magic Mind, mental performance shot. So I would recommend that you guys try that out. I'll also have a link in the description of the episode. So without further ado, let's go on with our essay. So he's trying to recruit him, and what is interesting is, yes, we know that he wants him for these other things, but what does Joruus C'baoth want? So we'll find out. So just to replay this conversation, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I will take away the most important part. So the conversation goes like this. So essentially he gives him the spiel about why he needs him. And so C'baoth snorted, "So this is what you wanted me for, Grand Admiral Thrawn?" he asked scornfully. "To turn your ships into puppets for you?" "Not at all, Master C'baoth. My wish is merely to have you enhance the coordination between ships and task forces, and then only at critical times and in carefully selected combat situations." C'baoth threw a look to Pelion, who was a lieutenant or major, just a lower level guy, who went with him. He says, "To what end?" he rumbled. "To the end we've already discussed," Thrawn said. "Power." "What sort of power?" For the first time since landing, Thrawn seemed taken aback. "The conqueror of worlds, of course. The final defeat of the rebellion. The reestablishment of the glory that was once the Empire's new order." C'baoth shook his head. "You don't understand power, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Conquering worlds you'll never even visit again isn't power. Neither is destroying ships and people and rebellions you haven't looked at face to face." He waved his hand in a sweeping gesture around him, his eyes glittering with an eerie fire. "This, Grand Admiral Thrawn, is power. This city, this planet, these people, every human, Sadan, and Mirinursh, who I don't know how you pronounce that, who live here are mine. Mine." His gaze drifted to the window again. "I teach them. I command them. I punish them. Their lives and their deaths are in my hand." "Which is precisely what I offer you," Thrawn said. "Millions of lives, billions if you wish. All those lives to do with as you please." "It isn't the same," C'baoth said, a note of paternal patience in his voice. "I have no desire to hold distant power over faceless lives." "You could have just a single city to rule then," Thrawn persisted. "As large or as small as you wish. I rule a city now." Now, I think that's a great contrast between these two people, what they both think is valuable, right? What they both want, what they think the other person wants, and how they have to negotiate with each other. So first, as we see, Thrawn is projecting a little, in my opinion, when he assumed what C'baoth would want, what his will to power is. C'baoth is a priestly, if not seriously deranged, ruler type, which is unsurprising that he would be a priestly type as a Jedi, but he might be compared to a corrupt Puritan preacher who held great power and influence over their flock in the early colonial days of the United States. And further on, the Dark Jedi didn't want to vanquish enemies on the battlefield. He didn't want glory. He didn't want to control thousands of or millions of more lives if they were light years away. Thrawn, and for Thrawn, he doesn't see as much. He doesn't really understand the appeal to being a ruler as much as he does want to be a conqueror and a superb tactician and an amazing strategist. So for him, I think it's more about what can I do? What can I accomplish? What can I achieve? I want to do great things. I want to destroy the rebellion. I want to do X, Y, Z. Whereas C'baoth is more about who. He's more about, I want these people to belong to me. I want to possess people. I want to teach them. I want to be their teacher. That's the type of person I am. I like the personal touch. So he's more of a patriarch. And going around and just using people for a specific task isn't really what he's so interested in. It's just being the leader and being like that patriarchal manager of their lives. That's the part that he enjoys. And it doesn't get more enjoyable by adding on more and more. Actually, it gets less because now I don't have a personal touch and I don't know who they are personally. So that I find very interesting. It's like, yeah, these are both villains. These are both bad guys. And they have different ways of being bad guys. There also could be good versions of this. There could be a good commander. There could be a good king, which is essentially what he wants to be. But he doesn't want to be an emperor, I don't think. He just wants to be a king of a small country. So I think that's where I'm going next, is that I think that there's something a little admirable about C'baoth in a kind of messed up way. Don't get me wrong. I think it's, making a small village of people essentially your slaves so that you can dominate them is small-minded and detestable. But hey, at the same time, maybe these people have good lives. I don't know. Maybe there could be a worse version. I think that sometimes we need to remember, as bad as something can be, there can always be something worse. And whatever kind of lives these people have, they're definitely going to be accustomed to it, and they're not going to know anything else. So that's something that needs to be considered. But probably, C'baoth is a maniacal tyrant, and we need to remember that. But the Admiral part to me is that he wants to be responsible for his community. He wants to be the judge, jury. He wants to be responsible for essentially everything. He probably knows the name, along with all of their problems and their hopes and dreams. And of course, within the book's context, it's that only a maniacal tyrant would even want this, and he is one. But however detestable we find this as modern people, there is a precedent for it. It's not like this has never existed, and it doesn't mean that there has never been a good version of this. But I can see that there could be plenty of bad. Of course, you as the listener are an aristocrat, and you don't need a shepherd. You don't need someone leading your life. But can you really say deep down that no one you've never known, probably even someone close to you or someone that you've just encountered in your life, should never have had this kind of shepherd? But we do have therapists. So what do we need? What do we need someone like that for? And no, this is not me saying that people need to get religion as in, because this is like, essentially we're saying that what I'm saying is that it would be good if someone have this kind of guidance. And often that does come from the arm of religion. I'm not necessarily saying that that's really what people need, but I do think that a lot of communities or some people could benefit from stronger guidance in their life, directionally. And if you think I'm nuts for saying that, that's okay. I'm okay. I'm just workshopping this, honestly, in real time. If you think that's a dumb idea, I'm happy to talk about it with you. But I think it's funny. I don't, not fun, but I just think it's interesting that C'baoth is the kind of ruler who's like, no, I'm not looking to expand. I'm not looking to get bigger. And it's kind of like this line. It's, what's the point in getting unlimited power? We have unlimited power at home. And there's something good about smaller, like-minded communities that are better for humanity in general. They're better for the average person. And let me be clear, it is better for the average person, not everyone. Mega states are huge empires. They are great for monopolists and highly ambitious, power-hungry individuals because they can rise to the top and get to control more. But they are not as good for the average person who is going to be having more average outcomes in their life. And most people are average. No, don't worry. If this makes you upset, there are currently no openings for this type of quote unquote pastor in our world. And there are no C'baoths to fill it, as I can think of right now in this current state of reality. But we also, as I entitled this, that this is the interaction between two sovereigns. And why do I say that? Well, I always find the idea of sovereignty to be interesting. It seemed to matter a lot more throughout history than it does now. It seems like sort of silly to even really bring that up. Maybe it seems out of date to talk about something like sovereignty, but I always find it interesting because I think history always parallels or rhymes with the present. And it's sometimes a lot easier way of discussing the present is through the lens of the past, because they had much more clear definitions of things. But what I liked about it is that, to me, it's said that both of these people were sovereign, and they just have different ways of being sovereign. Now, you could just look at them and say, hey, of course they're sovereign. They are the leaders on their respective org charts. One of them is a military commander, and the other one is a king or a pastor. They're definitely the leader of their organizations. But at the end of the day, it matters more functionally or practically what happens, and how they deal with things is going to be a better sign of their sovereignty or their independence, rather than just giving someone a definition or an org chart or just lines on a map. Those types of formal things don't actually define sovereignty. There are a couple things that could, define it. One is it's just like the final decider The last person who gets to decide, or the person whose decisions with rest. Another good definition is a person that can make agreements and that can be held to agreements, is another great one. Just think about that. Like, if you can't make agreements with someone, then you are not sovereign. Either for personal reasons or for because of your personality, because you're not reliable. That can be you're not sovereign, or it could be because you don't have authority to do it. Someone else is in charge of you, and they have the authority to do it. So those are a couple of ways, but there's a lot of ways that it can be demonstrated. But what I thought, there were 3 ways that helped me see that they were sovereign. And this could apply to really anyone. So they both have something the other person wants, but they can't get it from them through compulsion. So C'baoth wants the Jedi twins that Thrawn is offering him, which I didn't mention earlier, but that's eventually what he ends up offering him. Because they are students that he can have, people to teach. So really it's that personal touch, right? It's intimate. And it's not just, he doesn't care about a million more subjects. He wants like kingly subjects. He wants a prince, or he wants a princess, essentially. Or he just wants 2 amazing students. And obviously Thrawn wants C'baoth to come be his little space magician, and he can't get that. If he wanted to use force, it would end up not working out. He really needs him to be like a willing participant. So having something that someone else wants, but needing to ask for it and needing to give them a good offer, not being able to bully them into it, or if the only way they can get it is through force, then that means that they would have to fight, and that's how they would decide who actually is sovereign. But in this case, the fact that they didn't want to, and they didn't want to have to resort to violence, that gives you a very good position to be in. Lastly is that both are highly capable of violence, but in their own way. So Thrawn, he probably has some personal combat ability, but it's his form of force is more on a macro scale, where he can command fleets, and where C'baoth is actually more on a micro scale because of his personal powers of the force, and a lot of different things that he can do with that. So yeah, I think the reason why I got a little tripped up on that was because the first one I put down was that they both have something the other person wants. Now that doesn't make you sovereign, because if you have something that someone else wants, they could just take it from you, or they could just force you to work for them. But in this case, not being able to do that, because both of you can check the other person through violence, not necessarily using it, but having the potential, is important. That's really important. So if we can look at some of the many qualities that can grant sovereignty, it certainly helps if you're dispensable. You have something that someone else really wants and they can't get it anywhere else, or it's very difficult to get from someone else. You're indispensable, and it doesn't matter if you are on top of the org chart or not. If you are a very valuable person, it is going to be hard to get rid of you, and it's going to be hard to jerk you around. So wherever you are in life, not saying that your goal is to be sovereign, because really you can't be that. But if you want to get more out of life, if you want to be able to negotiate for more, be as invaluable be as irreplaceable as possible. That's a very good policy. All right, now the part 2. Now, Joruus C'baoth, he wants your ass in the office. So this is probably might seem a little weird about how I'd relate this to the topic at hand, but let's rewind back to 2020, or before 2020. Remote work was very rare. Everyone worked in an office, and it was pretty strange, honestly, if you didn't. If you worked remotely, that was seen as antisocial. It seemed a little weird. Not that it actually is, but it maybe just seemed that way. You were an outlier. But after the COVID stay-at-home orders, we were told to take our laptops home for about a week or so, and then after that, everything would go back to normal. Of course, the rest is history, and the hybrid and remote setups are now the norm. Now, me personally, after the whole debacle of corporations fluctuating on their COVID policies, 1 week it's okay, you can come into the office, everyone has to come into the office. Okay, we had another strain come in, so everyone has to go back home. Okay, now you can come in, but we can only have so many people in the office at a time, and you have to wear a mask. Okay, now you have to come in, but it's only 2 days a week. Okay, so just like all this back and forth. I thought it was annoying. I don't necessarily mind wearing a mask in some cases, but to have to wear a mask in your corporate job, sitting at a desk all day, it's not fun. I decided that I needed to get away from that. So what happened with me is that our company did pretty much what everyone else did and went fully remote for a while. And because of that, I decided to move out of the city where I lived because I felt like there wasn't really anything fun going on in the city. It's expensive, and what's the point if there aren't going to be any cool bars or like cool attractions to go to? Might as well just live in the burbs, because at least I'll be closer to parks, going to go on bike rides. Maybe there are people that, aren't as aggressive on their COVID policies. So I just didn't need to be close to an office anymore. So what was the point of being in the city? And everyone, including me, thought this is just, this was the new normal. This is how things are going to be from now on. And that was the dumbest thing ever that we thought that, because time does go on. And not long after I made that decision to move out to the burbs, my company mandated a new hybrid policy, and you had to come into the office once a week. Only our team had to come in, and all the other teams in the office wouldn't come in. And I didn't distaste going into the office. I just didn't like the commute because now I was far, and it was like an hour and a half total, and I had to drive to the train, take a train, and then I had to walk another mile just to get to the office for really no change in the type of work that I would do. So then it was like, okay, once a week, I can make it work. After that, I was like, then they said it was going to be 3 days in the office. And I was like, oh, great. There's only one direction this goes. It's just going to be full. It's going to be 5 days a week again. And I'm out here in the suburbs. So I, of course, didn't want to argue. I was just going to just apply to new jobs for remote as quickly as possible so that I didn't have to worry about this changing situation. And I know a lot of other people did this as well. I'm not the only one. But what I find frustrating about the discourse on this topic is the fact that everyone has an opinion about what's best, about that this is the best policy and this is the best policy and this policy is bad and here's why. And there's veracity to pretty much everyone's opinion on this. But the problem is that people don't want to admit that what they think is the best policy is what they are doing. It's basically the conversation. If we pull back all the bullshit around hybrid or remote or being in the office every day, if we peel back all the layers of bullshit, what people are really saying are basically one of three different things. First, blank office model works great for me, and therefore everyone else should do it my way. Think of that startup bro who's really a grinder at his career. He wants to be in the office every day. He loves his job, or that's how he's wired. He needs to be in the office. He wants to be working his way up the corporate ladder. He wants to perform well. Maybe he's in his early to mid 20s. I can't say that that's a bad thing. I can't say that and there's social opportunities that can come with that. Why would I say that that's a bad thing? I wouldn't. But then also there might be the 34-year-old that is just starting a family, and the fact that they can actually get their work done and not have to pay for a nanny, pay for a babysitter, whatever it is. It's insanely expensive. You basically are just working for childcare, where you can at least be around your child and get your work done. I'm not saying that that's easy, but it's easier for a lot of those people. And the social aspect, you're more established in your life, you're more established in your career, you probably don't feel as important to go into the office every day. So that obviously seems pretty good for that person. So depending on the situation you're in, you're going to be convinced that this is the best way to be. So that's version one. And the other two are more related to the CEO, the president, the leader of the company. And the first one of his is, I didn't lease this expensive office location in a downtown skyscraper with brand new furniture just so you could all sit at home and watch Netflix during work, which of course is not what people are actually doing, but from his point of view, it might as well be. So there's the money. The money talks. There's a lot of investment in real estate, and just saying that that's all going to go to waste is not tenable for so many people. The physical, the realities of real estate and a very old model of working it's hard to just blow that away, especially when people aren't really concerned about COVID as much anymore. With vaccines and with different protections, and having gone through this, and the fact that it's just not as big of a deal right now, it is making all these other priorities a lot more prescient, or a lot more at hand. So the third one is, I'm CEO of XYZ tech company.ai with 1,000 employees who I pay good money so that I can control the working hours of their lives. I don't feel relevant or important when I can't see my corporate serfs clicking away in their cubicles. Now, I know that's a very cynical way of looking at it, but essentially, I don't think that these people that are CEOs of large companies, they didn't get into this position just so that they don't feel like a real CEO. Like, they don't feel like a real leader of people. The type of person they are, their self-actualization in life is to be, I'm a leader, I'm a badass, I'm essentially in charge of all of these people. Look how important I am. Look at what I've done. And if I can't see those people, if they're just numbers on a spreadsheet, or if they're just people in a Zoom call, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel as important. So I think the big point for me is, like, maybe we should think more about how we as human beings aren't as advanced as the technology that we've created. Sure, we have technology that allows us to work from home, that we can work anywhere, that we can just be behind a camera or not even turn our camera on. And we don't need to even meet with other people to get our work done for a lot of people that are in the corporate world. But I think that there's something innately human about us needing people in our lives. Like, we have a need for people. I think it's instinctual. I think it's innate. I think it's part of human nature to be around other human beings. And if we're starting to say that the nature of work no longer needs the human element to be in the office, to be present around other human beings, and throw in AI, whereas none of these jobs need to exist anymore, I just don't understand what all this is for. Yeah, a lot of people don't want to work. It's not fun. I get it. A lot of jobs suck, but the alternative may be a lot worse. And I think we just need to, just think about that a little more, about what it actually means to be human. And if the fact that people are asking us to go into the office is not part of that human instinct, not just that, it creates a better work culture. We just have better ideas when we get in a room together and yada, yada, yada. Like, yeah, sure, that's part of it. That's a good argument. It's a good thing in favor. But at the end of the day, there's a lot more that goes into it. So I think that there's people that doesn't apply to. They can perfectly be fine. They're perfectly fulfilled in life without stepping into the office. And if your office sucks, I wouldn't want to go into it either. But I guess won't want to say that that's like really the truthful reality. Like, that's not really the reality around this topic. And that's where C'baoth comes in, because we know if he were a corporate CEO, he would have everyone coming in the office. He would maybe have 100 employees or so. No more than that. He'd be content. He doesn't want to grow his company too big. He likes to be a small company. They'd be in the office Monday through Friday. He wants to be in the same physical space as his employees. He doesn't see them as line items on a spreadsheet. And yeah, maybe that attitude that he wouldn't want to fire just anyone. He want maybe work it out, or he wouldn't do it just to save money. Maybe that's going to actually not get him ahead as some other presidents or CEOs. But that's okay with him, because he's shaping lives and leading people that he knows on a personal level. And on the other hand, he's also a maniacal clone of a Jedi, so he wouldn't hesitate to fry you with force lightning at a quarterly earnings meeting. So we know that's true too. So yeah, there are definitely trade-offs with all these things. We need to be aware of that. But I just thought it was a fun little idea to share with all of you. And I will be posting this on Substack to read if you prefer to do that. But before I go, just a reminder to check out Magic Mind, check out our offer to get 45% off of the bundle with the sleep elixir and also the mental performance shot. You can get both together in a nice little bundle for 45% off by going to www.magicmind.com/SWLCJAN. But with that, I thank you all for listening, and I hope you all have a great week and rest of your day. May the force be with you. Bye.